During my tenure at Penn as a PBE student, I became interested in Bitcoin as it emerged from obscurity and rose to become a major financial asset class. One of the most interesting research projects I conducted during my undergraduate years was exploring the nature of Bitcoin, its status as money, and whether it legitimizes money creation. Economist and money historian John Kenneth Galbraith once wrote, "The process by which money is created is so simple that the mind is repelled." He did not live to witness the advent of Bitcoins, but he would have enjoyed the debate as to whether Bitcoin qualifies as money and whether or not it legitimizes money creation. Money has formed one of the building blocks of human society by facilitating human exchange beyond barter. Money constitutes a cornerstone of the economy, the financial and monetary systems, and society itself. Around 3000 BCE, humans first moved beyond barter with commodity money, i.e. livestock and crops. Circa 1000 BCE, the next step came with the standardization and consistent reuse of objects, such as Chinese knife money, which was introduced during the Zhou dynasty. The first coins appeared in the Greek cities of Asia Minor in the late 7th century, and paper money wasn't introduced until the 11th century in China under the Song dynasty. The digital revolution was well underway in the early 1980s when advances in cryptography made digital money possible. The internet made possible commercial transactions of all sorts between businesses and individuals without the need for physical proximity. Until the advent of Bitcoin, this was true in all respects except payment, especially the equivalent of cash payment. Cryptographic protocols to create electronic signatures quickly emerged as a necessary building block for a digital currency to fill this need in the internet marketplace. Early conceptions of a digital payment medium relied on a trusted third party, typically a financial institution. Reliance on trusted third parties adds considerable friction, ties, and costs to commercial transactions using digital cash. Furthermore, trust in the financial system has been shaken to its core since the financial crisis of 2008. Bitcoin was launched publicly as a white paper entitled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and posted online on October 31, 2008 by the still unknown author or authors under the name Satoshi Nakamoto at the height of the financial crisis. Several digital currencies aimed at providing security and efficiency to online payments preceded Bitcoin. First building block were advances in cryptography. Then Hal Finley created the concept of proof of work, and the digital currency schemes of Nick Szabo, BitGold, and Wei Dai, B-Money, integrated these two innovations. A major challenge for earlier digital currencies was the possibility of double spending, the transferring of the same coin to two different recipients. Bitcoin offered an effective solution to the problem of being able to spend the same token twice, and successfully dealt with other types of fraud possible in electronic payments. Bitcoin's replacement for the trusted third party is the blockchain, essentially a shared, decentralized, time-stamped public ledger. The ledger is a database that holds the complete history of every transfer of every Bitcoin ever mined and circulated in incorruptible chronological order, distributed throughout a peer-to-peer network of computer nodes, that is, pools of thousands of computers around the world. The network is open, and nodes can leave and rejoin the public network at will, and access to the ledger is public. A transfer of a Bitcoin is a transaction validated by timestamp and verified based on proof of work. The work consists of the nodes of computers in the network competing to solve massive mathematical trial and error puzzles using the encrypted code or hash of transactions. The hash of each transfer is matched against the published history of all transactions. Once a solution is found, it is checked by the other nodes, and verification is achieved once a majority of the nodes agree on the solution, which then adds a block to the chain. Solving the puzzle requires utilizing massive computing power and energy. As incentive to invest capital and electricity, nodes are rewarded with bitcoins for being the first to solve a puzzle. The process was designed to be analogous to gold miners expending resources to add gold to circulation. In the case of Bitcoin creation, it is CPU, time, and electricity that is expended. This is why the Bitcoin creation process is referred to as mining and the nodes as miners. Bitcoin cleverly combines existing contributions from decades of research and also solves fundamental problems in a highly sophisticated, original, and practically viable way. It uses a proof-of-work scheme to limit the number of votes per entity, and thus renders decentralization practical. Money is commonly defined by the three basic functions it performs: as a medium of exchange, a store of value, and unit of account. These basic economic functions are what make money an integral component of a free market economy. George Simmel, the renowned neo-Kantian sociologist, analyzes money as both an economic and a social institution, which traces its roots back to the foundations of civil society. Before there could or needed to be money, there had to be exchange, and exchange came into existence simultaneously with and as a part of society. Digital networks, the most prominent being the internet, have expanded the opportunities for human exchange exponentially. They were made possible by the circumscription of myriad overlapping affinity groups of any size. Applying Simmel's teleological insight, we can see that a digital currency is a necessary element to make a cyber network a society. Ludwig von Mises explains money both theoretically and historically. Thus, the purchasing power of money is based on the market. The Austrian school of revived classical economics advocates for a return to sound money, defined as commodity money, specifically the gold standard, as what it meant in the 19th century. In the neoclassical prescription, the combination of a commodity standard for the currency and constraints on fractional reserve banking limited government's ability to manipulate the money supply and interest rates, which can create inflation, the true opium of the people, administered to them by anti-capitalist governments and parties. According to the Austrian school of thought, political management of the money supply distorts capital allocations and can create catastrophic imbalances. In contrast, Keynesian theory holds that monetary and fiscal policies are crucial tools to manage the economy. The central bank can stimulate short-term demand by increasing the money supply, thereby lowering interest rates. Under this theory, governments can smooth out business cycles and help pull an economy out of recession. An increase of the money supply shifts purchasing power away from the holders of currency to the issuing government. This devaluation of the currency is what economists sometimes label as inflation tax. Bitcoin is independent of governments, has a finite supply, and a fixed rate of supply growth qualities that ought to make it a great store of value. To the extent that a private cryptocurrency can compete with fiat currencies, it offers the possibility of removing government's ability to seize purchasing power without conspicuous taxation. The Austrian and Keynesian schools differ sharply on whether the abrogation of governmental monetary intervention would be a benefit or a detriment to the economic and political systems. In 2013, the prices of major fiat currencies and gold were all strongly positively correlated with each other. There was a negligible, ranging from negative 0.06 to 0.01 correlation between the Bitcoin US dollar exchange rate and any of the leading currencies in gold. Results imply that the macroeconomic and geopolitical events that influence the relative prices of the major world currencies and gold have little to no impact on the value of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's value has exhibited high volatility and low correlation against all the major world currencies and gold. As a reference, even highly speculative stocks seldom reach 100% volatility, and broadly held stocks tend to exhibit volatilities between 20 and 30%. Bitcoin's extreme volatility impairs its utility as a store of value. Nowhere in the foundational document, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, do the author or authors refer to Bitcoin as a currency, nor do they call it money directly. Satoshi Nakamoto was seemingly concerned only with creating a reliable and efficient electronic payment system by solving the double spending problem, without the added cost of a financial institution to act as the trusted intermediary. As of 2015, Bitcoin was accepted as a medium of exchange by over 160,000 merchants, including several big names such as Expedia, Microsoft, and Dell. This universe of counterparties, however, is still small in the context of the economy. Bitcoin was designed to reduce transaction costs, which ought to make it attractive as a medium of exchange, especially for microtransactions. The biggest jump in the number of merchants taking payment in Bitcoin occurred after some major payment platforms, namely PayPal, adopted Bitcoin. This is ironic because it eliminates, to the detriment of consumers, the cost advantages of Bitcoin as a payment. Bitcoin's market capitalization grew from 1.3 billion at the beginning of May 2013 to 23.9 billion 4 years later, a pace that seemed extraordinarily rapid in terms of any historic comparison. The market capitalization then spiked, peaking at 318.3 billion on December 18th of 2017, over a 13-fold increase in less than 8 months. It has since fallen back down to around 70 billion as of March 2019. 24-hour trading volume in Bitcoin did not reach $100 million until December 2016 and peaked at $23.4 billion at the start of 2018. As of March 2019, trading volume is in the 5 to 10 billion range daily. Precedents set by other asset classes would suggest that Bitcoin's volatility should decline over time, improving its use as a store of value. This trend is emerging. Bitcoins have grown in value from just under 5 cents at inception to a high of nearly $20,000 per token as of December 2017. This characteristic makes Bitcoin unwieldy as a unit of account, as the price of items when expressed in Bitcoin requires 3 or more decimal places before reaching the first decimal point greater than 0. Still early in the life cycle of Bitcoin, all of its market characteristics are changing rapidly. More history and data are needed before we can establish whether Bitcoin is a currency or a commodity in terms of its price behavior. Virtual networks are larger, more numerous, and easier to form than could have ever been imagined a few years ago. Commercial exchanges are fundamental to many of these networks, and a trustworthy digital currency can enhance the efficiency of these networks in terms of not only cost and time, but also socially, as similarly observed. The exchange of the products of labor or of other possessions is obviously one of the purest and most primitive forms of human socialization, not in the sense that society already existed and then brought about acts of exchange, but on the contrary, that exchange is one of the functions that creates an inner bond between men, a society, in place of a mere collection of individuals. Money is something that is hard to define or understand, and it is important. Bitcoin performs many of the basic economic functions of money. It requires seasoning before its true ability to be a medium of exchange, store of value, and unit of account can be fully appreciated. Bitcoin is not likely to replace the major fiat currencies of the world anytime soon, and therefore is unlikely to deprive governments of control of the money supply as a tool of economic management. The seminal technological innovation that underpins Bitcoin, the blockchain, holds great promise for diverse applications across a broad spectrum of economic and legal activities. We have merely scratched the surface of the ontology of money and Bitcoins. Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies generally overlap in extensive ways with the many, sometimes complementary, but often contradictory definitions of money. Bitcoin, with a capital B, the system, and Bitcoin, with a lowercase b, the unit of account, or money, in that they are artifact and concept, mechanized mathematical process, and social practice. Perhaps the most intriguing inherent conflict present in Bitcoin versus Bitcoin is between its social roots and construction and its partly antisocial ideology. Bitcoin versus Bitcoin is already part of the history of money and of its foreseeable future. Thank you.